Hey everyone, I'm John and I'm Not So Odd. Welcome back. Today I'm making another Fire Emblem Three Houses video, and today I wanted to share my personal recommendations for the order I think that you should recruit in. And I base this on a lot of the anxiety I have around when I should recruit and who I should recruit, so I tried to boil it down to really characters who I think you should be recruiting based on their paralogs and other data. This is obviously not a hard list. You should play the game however you feel like it, and you should take this list with a grain of salt. There's a lot of things that go into making decisions around when and who you should recruit, like out-of-house levels, out-of-house growths, weapon rank growths out of house, and out of house classes, in addition to paralogs, which everyone in the story has a paralog, but certain paralogs are not available in certain playthroughs. So I try to limit the characters you should be playing, or the characters rather that you should omit based on the storyline that you're playing and based on the paralogs that you will have available to you. For example, Crimson Flower, you're going to see coming up, has a few characters that do not have paralogs in part 2, and because of this, I think those characters are omittable in a Crimson Flower playthrough, so I'll mention that, and you'll see it in my notes here on my pages document as well. Also, I try to be sensitive of whether or not you have the DLC, and I try not to talk too much about the DLC or to mesh it too deeply into what's going on here. And you'll see, like in this little personal recommendations chart here, I have Ashen Wolves to the right side, so if you don't have those DLC characters, don't really stress about it. So to start things off, I want to talk about paralogs, because paralogs are kind of what gate which characters you can avoid or which characters you can omit. A great example of this is Ingrid and Dorothea in the Rumored Nuptials paralog, right over here. Let me click on that. I don't know why that was so hard to click on. Anyway, so in the Rumored Nuptials paralog, Dorothea or Ingrid is possible, and this is only possible in part 1. In part 1 paralogs, you only need one of the two characters in order to complete said paralog. So you don't need both Dorothea and Ingrid to unlock or complete the Rumored Nuptials paralog. You can get one or the other. Or if you really want, you can get both, because I think they're both great units. And then so on and so forth. And there are some exceptions here. For example, like you'll notice Catherine down here, Catherine and Ash. So in Black Eagles, you actually cannot recruit Catherine before chapter 12, and you'll notice that this paralog here expires at the end of chapter 11. So if you're playing Black Eagles, you'll actually have to recruit Ash in order to complete this paralog. Even if you're doing Crimson Flower or Silver Snow, in Silver Snow, Catherine will be unlocked in chapter 12, as opposed to in every other story in every other playthrough you can get Catherine sooner. So particularly for the Black Eagles, you're going to want to pick up Ash if you want to be able to complete the Falling Short of Heaven paralog, which actually gives you, I believe, the Shoes of Wind, which is a permanent +1 to movement. So you definitely do want to pick up Ash just so you can, in Black Eagles, just to complete that. So here I have a more succinct list of characters you can avoid, particularly Mercedes and Lysithea. They have a part 2 paralog, Mercedes with Caspar and Lysithea with Ferdinand, but that paralog is not available in Crimson Flower. So unless you want those DLC support completions, so Mercedes has a support with a DLC character, and Lysithea has a support with Edelgard. So unless you're trying to complete those supports, I would not really worry too hard about recruiting either Mercedes or Lysithea if you are doing a Crimson Flower playthrough. And pretty much every other characters except the characters I'm trying to mention here. So for part 1 with Black Eagles, you can get Raphael or Ignatz. You don't need to get both. And you can actually completely ignore Ingrid. So you'll notice I don't have Ingrid listed here for part 1. So you can actually omit Ingrid if you are playing Black Eagles playthrough. So these are the necessary characters to recruit for part 1, and then everyone else you'll have to recruit for part 2. I guess I didn't make that clear here, that you don't need, that Ingrid is also, I'm just going to put in there, Ingrid avoidable for, you can also swerve Ingrid for Black Eagles run in general, because you have Dorothea, so you can do the Rumored Nuptials, but I probably would still recommend picking her up, although later game, and then I'll cover why, and when I cover out-of-house classes and out-of-house growths, why you should pick up Ingrid, and you should pick her up late game at that. And then Blue Lions, for Blue Lions you're going to pick up Lorenz, then Raphael or Ignatz for the Death Toll paralog, and then Hilda, which you can pick up for, so I'm not really sure about Hilda, because it says Hilda or Cyril, and I'm not exactly sure if you can have one or the other in order to complete this paralog, because this paralog is unique, the Dividing the World paralog, and that it's available after the time skip in addition to before the time skip. It actually expires on 5/24 here. You'll notice I have it highlighted. So that's interesting that it's not that, you know, you're not required to complete it pre-time skip. You can actually finish it post-time skip, which makes me think you need both Hilda and Cyril to complete that one, or to unlock it, period. And then I have here mentioned that you should definitely like that for Golden Deer, you definitely want to get Sylvain and then Ingrid or Dorothea. Or like I mentioned, you can get both. You can get Dorothea early to unlock and complete the Paralogue, and then you can get Ingrid later if you so choose. Felix, Ash, or Catherine. So in Golden Deer, you can actually completely ignore Ash and just pick up Catherine if you so please. And again, here I have mentioned that so Hilda is not available in Crimson Flower. Catherine can vary. So Catherine, you know, like in terms of the Black Eagles route, Catherine can vary in terms of when you recruit her. And she's not available before Chapter 12 in Silver Snow. So again, that's why you need to get Ash and Black Eagles in order to complete the Paralogue with Rhea. What is it called again? Falling Short of Heaven. Excellent. Next thing I want to mention is that Annette is not needed outside of Blue Lions because her Paralogue is only available in the Azure Moon storyline. So if you wanted to get Annette and you want to pick up the Crusher, you can only pick up the Crusher in Blue Lions. You cannot get it anywhere else. So because Annette and Gilbert, their Paralogue is together, and that's where they collect the Crusher. So it's Blue Lions only. So if you're looking for a character you can ignore when she's out of house, Annette is that character, which is sad to say because she's actually a really good rally bot. The second thing I want to talk to you guys about is default classes. So default classes actually determine what out-of-house growths are going to look like, and I have here in Safari, I have a chart for you, and I'm going to post this in this link in the description, and you'll actually have to go over and click on enemy in order to get to the stats that are used for auto leveling. And it'll mention here enemy stats are used to calculate enemy stats and auto leveling stats, which is important because this is what determines out of house growths. I always used to wonder this myself, like it wasn't until I think Rengor 1997 posted in one of my videos that enemy growths are used to calculate out of house growths that it made this apparent to me. So actually, like some of the classes with really amazing growths out of house are going to be Pegasus Knight and Thief, which is really interesting because they get a big boost to their strength growth, which I think is important in why I made certain decisions of recruiting characters later than earlier. If we go down to my personal recommendations, you'll see that I have characters like Felix, Yuri, Balthus, and Ingrid. I recommend recruiting all of them late game because they're actually like the out of house growths they're getting are actually so amazing. You want to get them as late as possible, so they're coming in with those really juiced growths. Back to classes. So I think the worst classes, I'm not sure if you guys saw on that page, the worst out of house growths are for mages, priests, and dark mages. And also I would argue where are they? Armor Knights. Armor Knights have -30 to speed, which is insane. So that's really garbage. So, but thankfully, no one out of house is an Armor Knight, so you don't need to worry about that really. The best thing that out of house mages and out of house priests have going for them is their really good resistance stat, and that really isn't saying much because resistance isn't very useful in a maddening playthrough. So I wouldn't stress too heavily about that. And because of that, you'll see here I've noted that the Mages, Priest, and Armor Knight have the worst out-of-house growths, and that's opinion-based, and then I have listed here that Dorothea, Lindhart, Annette, so basically all the Mages, and then if you have the DLC, Constance and Happy, and Dorothea is the only pre-time skip, is the only mage with a pre-time skip Paralogue among all the non-DLC mages, which is interesting to think about. So it's kind of like if you're in Blue Lions or Golden Deer and you want to pick up Dorothea, I definitely recommend doing it early. And another reason why you want to pick up mages like particularly Dorothea, Constance, and Happy, why you want to pick them up early is because they actually have a weapon proficiency in a non-magical weapon. Dorothea has a weapon proficiency in swords, which means when you recruit her from out of house, she's going to develop her sword rank, and so will Constance. Constance will develop sword rank and reason rank, and Happy will develop, I believe, lance rank and reason rank. So it's kind of like if you don't want Happy developing those unnecessary ranks, I definitely recommend picking them up early. The faith rank for Dorothea, Constance, and Happy does not grow out of house. So if you want to develop their faith rank, you want to recruit them as soon as possible and start developing their faith rank. Dorothea gets Physic at C rank, and so does Happy. Dorothea also has a budding talent in faith, which is it's kind of necessary to go through because you want to train her in that, so she gets her. The budding talent isn't so much useful, but Physic is definitely a really useful tool. And Constance actually gets Rescue at B rank in Faith, which is sad because she has no proficiency in Faith, so you're going to have to sit around and train her in Faith or just, change her goals or her focus to Faith. That way she can get those spells earlier. So a really great resource for out of house growths and out of house stats is going to be the Fire Emblem Wiki. So fireemblemwiki.org. If you type a character's name in the search bar and you search for /stats, so let's put in Constance, and you'll see right here that there's Constance/stats. And if you click on this, it'll actually take you to the page and it'll let you know what Constance growths will be out of house, and it'll show you, like I have here on this page, Petra, but if you type in anyone's name /stats, it'll give you a full breakdown of when you recruit them. So if you recruit Constance in Chapter 9, this will be her stats, her level, and this will be her proficiencies. And again, you'll notice there's no growth in faith whatsoever. It's still E, so that's pretty miserable. So now I'd like to explain how it breaks down all into my personal recommendations here. And you'll notice for my personal recommendations in the notes down here that I have written that your last chance to recruit for Crimson Flower is Chapter 11, Pegasus Moon, and your last chance to recruit for any other house, or for any other storyline, so Verdant Wind, Silver Snow, Azure Moon, is going to be Chapter 12. So everything except Crimson Flower you can recruit in Chapter 12, which is really good to know. And I have denoted in this chart as well. You'll see CF for Crimson Flower. Also as well, all the units, and in this chart as well, I didn't mention it, but all the units, they're highlighted in bold. They're highlighted in bold because these are pre-time skip paralogues. So here for let's say you're playing Black Eagles and you want to know who to recruit. So this is like, it'll tell you like, hey, you want to recruit Mercedes, Sylvain, Ash, and then it'll tell you the chapter. And here I have explained the chapters where you want to recruit them from. If you're doing Crimson Flower, you can ignore Mercedes, like I mentioned before. And you can also, I have a little asterisk next to Annette, because Annette you can avoid in any other storyline. You can just straight up avoid Annette, because again, you cannot obtain her paralogue in Part 2 unless you are playing Blue Lions. Also, you'll notice another asterisk next to Hilda because of the restrictions on her character, depending on which route you're playing. But yeah, like as long as you pretty much, I guess I should technically put a note next to Mercedes here to notify you that you don't need to pick her up for Crimson Flower. And same thing with Lysithea. And you'll notice I have Lysithea further down than any of the other mages. The reason I have Lysithea further down than any other mage is because she has proficiencies in both Reason and Faith, which is good because that means out of house she's going to develop both Reason and Faith. Lindhart and Mercedes actually also have proficiencies in Reason and Faith. However, because they're defaulted into the Priest class, which again only has a 5% growth as opposed to a 10% growth in Magic, I would say that you want to recruit them earlier because it makes more sense to take them through the Monk class and then into the Mage class. That way they develop their 10% boost to Magic, and also they can grab Fiendish Blow, which is necessary for them as mages. Lysithea will obviously, you'll have to go back and get Fiendish Blow with Lysithea, but she'll already be in Mage class, so you won't really be paying for those seals to like reclass her. Versus again, if you pick up Lindhart and Mercedes, you'll have to get those seals to reclass them anyhow. So it's kind of like, but rather than leave them to develop basically only their res stat, like it's entirely up to you. But personally, I would say pick them up sooner than later. If you want to, you can pick them up just as late as Lysithea though, because just like Lysithea, they will develop their Reason and their Faith out of house. So if you don't want to have to think about it, then that's completely understandable, and you can pick them up later as well. Marianne, you definitely do want to pick up early, so it's kind of because she has a proficiency in swords, and she's going to develop her proficiency in swords if you leave her out of house, which isn't very useful because you want her to develop her Reason, which she does not have a proficiency in, but she has really great Reason spells in Black Magic, so you definitely want to grab that for her. Lastly, I'm going to explain the Ashen Wolves. So Constance and Happy you want to pick up sooner than Yuri and Balthus because again their out of house growths aren't as amazing as Yuri and Balthus. Balthus actually gets a plus 20% growth to his speed, which is amazing because that brings him up to a 50% growth in speed. So if you're picking him up at level 21 with a 50% growth in speed, he's actually coming in at some really nice stats. Same thing with Yuri. Yuri's actually getting a big boost to his attack. He's getting plus 15 to attack and plus 10 to speed, which is great for an out of house growth. Versus Constance and Happy, again, they're only getting 10% to Magic and 35% to Resistance, which is kind of nice. But at the same time, Constance and Happy both have the same problem that they do not have proficiencies in Faith, so they won't develop their Faith rank out of house. So Constance won't get her Rescue faster, and Happy won't get her Physic faster. I'm pretty sure that covers everything that I have out here to explain. If you guys have any questions, please post them in the comments. If you have any feedback for me or have any criticisms, also post those in the comment. I'm curious to know what you guys do and how you guys build your units. that's pretty much going to be all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.